Today I have 3 tips for you which you're going to find useful if you work with Excel's data model. So I picked these tips because these are 3 things I struggled with when I started using Power Pivot and DAX. I'm sharing them with you in the hope that they will make your data modeling life easier. Let's get started. Tip number 1, easily copy your data model from one file to another. So here I have this file called Report 1. It has a lot of different tabs with pivot tables that are based on the data model. In the data model, I've already set up my relationships. I've already set up some measures that I need for my reporting as well. Now the data that's coming into the data model is coming in with Power Query. So it's coming in from an external file. Now what I want to do is copy the data model together with my measures that I have and the queries and connections to another file. So that other file is Report 2. In this file, I already have some queries and connections, and I've already created some reports. I haven't used the data model though, so my data model is empty. What I want to do is copy the data model from Report 1 to Report 2. So this is a trick you can use. Go to the file where you have your data model in and create a new pivot table. This is going to serve as a dummy pivot table that we're going to use to copy over our data model from one file to another. So I'm just going to go and insert a pivot table from the data model and make sure that I add something from each of the tables that I want copied over. So for example, from my sales table, let's just put in any of these. I'll just do count of product. Make sure that you at least select one item. From the customer table, I'm going to go with country. From the product one, I'll go with department. And from transaction type, I'm going to go with the transaction type name. Okay, so now we can see that I have something selected from each of these tables. Now, we're going to highlight the pivot table, press Ctrl+C to copy it, go to the Report 2 file, and paste in your pivot table. This is going to bring over all your queries and connections. So we can see they're all here. It's going to bring over your data model. All your relationships are going to be in place. And all your measures that you had are going to be here as well. Okay, so this is a neat trick you can use to copy your data model from one file to another file. Tip number 2, create a dedicated measures table. So in Power Pivot, every time you go and insert a measure from this interface, by default, you get the table name that first landed in your data model. So in this case, it's the customer table. I want my default table to be a dedicated measures table. This is what you need to do. Before you import anything to your data model, you need to do this step. So I'm going to open a new worksheet, copy an empty cell, go to the data model by going to Data, Data Model, and click on Paste. Here you can define the name of your measures table. I'm going to call it KPI. Just click on OK. Now what you can do to get a nice measures icon, which I'm going to show you in a second how that looks like, is you need to hide this column. So right mouse click and hide from Client Tools. Now you can import your other data. So I'm going to do it from Power Query. Get data from file, from workbook. I have all my data here. Let's select multiple items and import these. I'll just load these directly to the data model because I don't have to make any changes to them. So I'll only create a connection, add this to the data model, and now they're landing in there. Now in theory, customer should be the first table because that's the first table that landed. But because I added an extra table first, that's my default now. So if I go to Power Pivot, Measure, New Measure, I'm going to see my KPI table as the default. So I'm just going to quickly create a measure to show you that icon I was talking about before. Total quantity is just the sum of the quantity column in the sales table. Let's add that in. Let's quickly insert a pivot table from the data model. And now that's the icon that you see in your dedicated measures table. So every time you go and add a new measure, this is the default table. If you don't want to create a default measures table, just make sure that the table where you want to keep your measures in is loaded first to the data model and then load your other tables. This way, you don't have to constantly switch your view every time you insert a measure from this interface. Tip number 3, use cube functions for flexible reporting. Let's say I want to add a header here that says quantity to date, and right here, I want to see the quantity value. Now, all my data is in the data model. What I want to see here is basically this. I just want to reference the grand total cell in here. Now, by default, I get this get pivot data function, which can be great because if my pivot table happens to change shape, it's going to figure out the right cell to show here. But what if I don't want to have total quantity here? What if instead I want to have median quantity and I just kick this one out? Then this is not going to work. A direct cell reference is also not going to work because total quantity isn't here. So I want to show total quantity here and I want to show it as just a value, not a value in a pivot table. One way I can do this is to use cube functions. And don't worry, you don't have to know how to write cube functions. Excel will do it for you. All you need to do is create a pivot table that includes the numbers and values that you want to have. In my case, I just want to have one value. It's the total quantity table. So I'm just going to create it on the side here. Let's kick out median quantity and add in my total quantity. I don't want department. I just want this value. Now that I have my pivot table set up, all I have to do is go to Pivot Table Analyze, All App Tools, and convert to formulas. This is automatically going to give me the cube value function. Notice how simple the function is. It's only referencing the cell above it where it says total quantity. So I can't just delete total quantity now because I'm going to get an A. I need this cell in here. So if you aren't familiar at all with cube functions and you want to be on the safe side, you can actually copy the entire formula, go to the cell you want to keep, and replace this reference with the function. And then press enter. Now you can safely remove the label and you have your value. If you are familiar with cube functions, you know that you don't need this part. It's enough to just keep this part. When I press enter, I have my value in a much smaller function. Now I'm just going to cut this and paste it in here. So cube functions refresh whenever you refresh your data model. They basically refresh just like your pivot tables. But now you have this number as a function. You can combine it with other Excel features and functions. So I could just combine this into a single cell. I'm just going to cut this out and put this in here. In quotation marks, I'm going to have quantity to date, space quotation, and I can have my value. I want to add formatting to this. I'm going to use the text function, put the cube value function inside the text function, and add my formatting in quotation marks. So I want 1,000 separator. I'm going to put hash, comma, a couple more hash signs, 0, quotation, close bracket, and now I have my cube function inside a standard Excel function. I hope you found these tips useful. If you have any tips of your own, please share them with us in the comments below. I'm sure there are also others that are going to benefit. If you'd like to master Power Pivot, DAX, and data modeling in Excel, check out my complete course on excelplus.com. It takes you from the beginning to pro. You're going to leave the course with new skills that don't just apply to Excel, but to Power BI as well. So that's it for today. Many thanks for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next video.